Chapter 1: Shadows of the Past. I woke up in the middle of the night to a strange feeling, like someone was standing right next to me. At first, I thought it was just a dream, but the cold breath on my cheek was real. "Grandpa?" I whispered, turning in bed. He was standing there, by my bedside, in the dark. His gray hair caught the moonlight, and his eyes, the ones that had been changing over the years, were unusually clear and wide open. "They're walking through the house again," he said quietly, with a fear that made my chest tighten. We were used to Grandpa forgetting things, names, dates, even who we were. We thought it was just Alzheimer's, something inevitable. But this time, it was different. "I see them, even when I close my eyes," he added, like he was scared I wouldn't understand. I tried to calm him down, telling him it was just a dream, that nothing was there. But Grandpa didn't listen. He grabbed my hand. His grip was way too strong for a man his age. "You don't get it," he whispered. "I remember. But it's not my memories, it's theirs, and what they did here." I pulled away, the words hitting me like a punch. Who were they? What did they do? But Grandpa said no more. He slowly walked out of my room, leaving me alone with the shadows. The next day, Mom said Grandpa was getting worse, that he was confusing times, mixing past and present, that we had to be patient. But that night, I heard his voice again, a whisper cutting through the silence in the hallway. "I remember what you did." I peeked out from behind the door. Grandpa was standing, facing the dark wall, like he was talking to someone invisible. "Who's there?" I whispered, though I barely believed there'd be an answer. He slowly turned toward me, and his eyes were different, black as the night, filled with anger and secrets. "Do you remember what you did?" he said softly, as if calling me to judgment. I froze. It felt like my heart stopped. What could I have done? I was just a kid. Or was I? That night, I didn't sleep. My mind spun with questions. Who were those "they" walking through the house? What did Grandpa see? Why was he seeing me in those terrible memories? Morning came with cold silence, but I already knew this story was just beginning. Chapter 2: Memories That Shouldn't Return. The next few days felt like a blur. Every creak of the old house made me jump. The wind outside rattled the windows like ghosts trying to get in. Grandpa's strange behavior didn't stop. Sometimes he'd sit in his favorite armchair, staring at nothing, muttering names and dates that didn't make sense. Other times, he'd suddenly snap into clarity and talk about things from decades ago, things I had never heard before. One evening, after dinner, I found him in the living room, staring at an old family photo hanging above the fireplace. His fingers trembled as he traced the faces on the faded picture. "They were happy once," he said softly, "but the house remembers, and the walls keep their secrets." I asked him what he meant. He looked at me, eyes clouded but intense. "A family lived here before us," he said. "A man, his wife, and their little girl. They disappeared one night. No one ever found them." I shivered. "Did the police investigate?" Grandpa shook his head. "No reports, no clues, just gone. Like they were swallowed by the house itself." That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. The shadows in the corners of my room seemed to shift and move. I heard faint whispers, almost like a child's laughter, but I told myself it was just my imagination. The next day,
I decided to explore the house more carefully. I went into the basement, a cold, dark place filled with old boxes and forgotten memories. As I moved an ancient trunk, I found something hidden underneath. A small, tattered doll. Its glassy eyes stared up at me, cracked but eerily lifelike. Suddenly, I heard footsteps above me. Heart pounding, I ran upstairs just in time to see Grandpa disappearing into his room. He looked pale, as if he had seen a ghost. Later that evening, I overheard him talking on the phone, his voice trembling. I saw him, the boy, the one from that night. He's back. Who was the boy? What happened that night? The questions haunted me. I started digging through old newspapers and town records, searching for any clue about the vanished family. There were rumors, whispers of strange occurrences, unexplained disappearances in the neighborhood, but nothing concrete. One night, Grandpa called me to his room. His eyes held a strange light. He said, "I want to show you something." He led me to the attic, a dusty room filled with old furniture and forgotten relics. There, lying on a cracked wooden floor, was a faded journal. Grandpa opened it carefully. The pages were yellowed and brittle, written in a shaky hand. It belonged to the father of the vanished family. The last entry chilled me to the bone. They are watching us. The house is alive. It remembers every sin, every lie. If we try to leave, it will take us. I fear for my daughter most of all. I looked up at Grandpa. What does it mean? He whispered. The house feeds on memories, on guilt, and it never forgets. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept seeing the little girl's face in my dreams, her sad eyes full of fear and hope. And sometimes, in the corner of my room, I thought I saw a shadowy figure watching me. Grandpa's words echoed in my mind. They're walking through the house again. I was starting to believe he wasn't losing his mind. He was warning me. But warning me about what?
Chapter 3. The Burden of Memory. Days passed like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. The house felt alive, breathing around me with unseen eyes. Every creak, every whisper in the shadows seemed to remind me I was not alone. Grandpa's condition grew worse, but not in the way I expected. His Alzheimer's faded into something darker. He was no longer forgetting. Instead, he remembered things so clearly it scared him and now me. One evening, he called me to the kitchen. His hands shook as he poured tea, but his eyes were sharp, almost frighteningly so. "I need to tell you the truth," he said, "about that night, about you." My heart pounded. "Me, Grandpa, I don't understand." He leaned closer, voice low and heavy. "You were there. You were the last one, the one who didn't leave." I wanted to laugh. "That's impossible. I was a kid." He shook his head slowly. "No, you were there. You don't remember because the house, it hides things. It buries guilt deep in the mind." Memories I had long forgotten flickered at the edges of my mind. The smell of cold metal, the creak of a door, a child's cry muffled by silence. I pushed them away, but Grandpa's words hit harder than any slap. He whispered, "The family didn't disappear. Something happened. Something you were part of." The house groaned around us, as if hearing the confession. Shadows seemed to close in. That night, sleep was impossible. I saw her again, the little girl, her eyes pleading. I heard whispers urging me to remember, to face the truth. The next morning, I found an old photograph slipped under my door. It was the family, smiling, the little girl holding a doll,
The same doll I found in the basement. But in the photo, behind the family, a shadowy figure stood, and it was me. I stared at the photo, trembling. Was it a trick, a nightmare made real, or had Grandpa been right all along? The house waited, patient and dark. The memories I buried were rising like ghosts, dragging me closer to the edge of a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Grandpa's voice echoed in my mind. They're walking through the house again, and this time they want you to remember everything. I don't know if I'm ready, but I have no choice. The past doesn't forget, and neither will I.